Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and call the Johnston City Council meeting number 23-09 to order. Sam, roll call please.
Burkhart,
Here.
Pope,
Here.
Ready,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Martin.
Here. I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience with us this evening. You're here for an item that is on the agenda. We'll absolutely wait until that item comes up and address the council at that time. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public comments to public communications to hear comments at that time. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. That's our city attorney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible.
Next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mark, are there any changes to the agenda? Council, any changes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Approval. We have a motion and a second discussion. Sam, roll please.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications, we have 2 scheduled public communications this evening. The first one is a proclamation in celebration of National Police Week, recognizing the contributions of Johnston police officers to the Johnston community. I will just encourage everyone to read that proclamation. We've done similar proclamations for several years now. You know, we show a lot of appreciation to our police officers, all of which is well deserved. This particular proclamation does recognize May 15th as Peace Officer Memorial Day. That, of course, is recognizing honor of our police officers who are killed in action. I just want to again thank all the great police officers that we have in this community. They go to work every day and put their lives on the line and make sure that we're safe. And so we are forever indebted to them for that. So anyway, thank you, Chief. Please share this with your officers and thank them on our behalf.
Thank you.
The other item that we have this evening is a proclamation proclaiming May as Building Safety Month. Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, you bet. So May is always the building safety month, and so we put a proclamation out there. I just want to say again, thank you for council and mayor for your support of what we do. I have a great staff, and hopefully we're making the building safer for the residents of Johnston. I just want to say thank you again.
I think Maddie wants to take.
Party one, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're still under public communications. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we move on to public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. And that is to consider resolution number 23-92, approving and authorizing execution of a development agreement by and between the city of Johnston, 4705 Northwest 59th LLC. We will open this public hearing at 7:16.
Evening, Mayor Council. Evening, Mayor Council. This is a base, level set package for 4705. Just off of Beacon Drive. We're proposing a complex building, under construction. Having 4,000 square foot of a general contractor. And 1,000 square feet for the pets. Plant company. The other remaining space would be leased as well. Here's the location that's at that intersection. Drive. As part of the development agreement, they are expected to make $1.7 million construction project and maintain 13 full-time jobs for the duration of the agreement, 5 years. The maximum rebate amount of $100,000. The actual rebate amount subject to the tax rate for each year and the actual assessed value. The project does meet the guidelines for base package. Happy to answer your questions.
Council, any questions?
Yeah, I have one. Adam, since you did bring it up, I know we've had this discussion before, but would you please remind me, how do we validate the number of employees, especially in a multi-tenant scenario like this? Do we send surveys to each tenant? Is the landlord responsible for surveying those folks who are coming back to us throughout that period? How does that work?
It does depend a little bit on the development agreements and format of that. This one would be a development agreement with the developers and not the actual tenants in the occupied building. In this instance, we asked the developer to speak to the tenants and verify the amount of employees. And essentially, we trust on this, in instance like this, we will verify. The larger project, we're focused primarily on the job creation, high quality job growth. Particularly one that the state would be party to. There's a more in-depth process which we requesting salary information, non-specified staff names, but employee accounts. And we're going to verify it that way. But on the job, on the project that we're looking primarily for commercial valuation growth. Drive, we're not level of median value, median county wages. We're not typically going in process than asking them to provide signed, certified, and revised documents certifying that they pay the property taxes and then we have applications for development. Thank you.
Any other questions for Adam?
So Adam, you had an aerial vicinity with kind of a yellow hatched out. So there'll be 2 buildings on that. Is that region?
They do have a space back out for a second. It's not currently proposed construction for parties.
But it is all, both buildings are intended, and I'm not concerned about it, I'm just trying to visualize that you'll have 2 buildings on that.
I believe they're both on the same parcel plating, this one. No, it's on the adjacent parcel to the west.
Okay, so, but this TIF agreement just deals with the one that's on there.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Other council questions, comments? This is a public hearing on this item. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:20. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-92?
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Sample, please.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yeah.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second discussion. Sample, please.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda, 7A, consider third and final reading to adopt and publish ordinance number 1094, approving an official zoning map amendment for approximately 5.87 acres located south of Northwest 70th Avenue and west of Peckham Street from R1 75 two-family residential districts, R2 1 and 2-family residential districts.
There have been no changes to the ordinance since the second reading, and the public comment has been received in that time.
Any questions for Aaron? Anyone in the audience would like to comment on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve third and final reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1094?
So moved.
Second.
Now, a motion and a second discussion.
I just had a question as it relates to is it Peckham Drive and sort of the concerns that we heard. So what is kind of the plan of action related to looking at potential bump outs or, I mean, is that something that will be brought to the Public Works Committee? How will that process kind of?
Right, so right now we have signed the trail crossing to alert drivers if there's a crossing. When we get the temperatures, we are going to strike that crossing, paint that crossing to bring more attention to it. And then we also added it to our traffic study, the citywide traffic study. But our intent right now is with the speeds that we're seeing out there, we're at an average speed of about 26 miles an hour. So we're going to kind of take a no approach with that. We'll come back and we'll see the citywide traffic study recommends it right now. Signing and painting that crossing right now should break the words. So we're not really seeing those actually not.
I thought I saw also is out driving on kind of the south part of Peckham, just as you turn and head towards Brio. It looks like there's a speed measuring device that's in place.
Yeah, we've had our feedback sign out there for almost a month now, and we just took those down today.
Okay, so that was a temporary measure.
Correct.
As sort of as part of the traffic study, or was
It was just to see, we had the speeding concerns that were raised at the meeting, and prior to the meeting, so we really wanted to gather that data and see if there was a speeding concern on the street.
so how many of those types of devices do we have in the community? Do we use them? How many are temporary and how many do we have?
None of them that are in permanent location. I know Public Works has 2 of those signs that we use, and we're doing projects and we get speeding complaints through neighborhood or traffic rerouting, we'll go out and we'll set those up on the streets. I don't know exactly, like, he has 2.
And they're all sheets are all temporary in nature. They don't stay at a location permanently.
That's correct. We'll typically post them north, and south on the eastern roadway to put drivers both ways to these comments down. We're pursuing the grant to start a 3rd unit, we require 30 units with other traffic safety development grants. To find out about that. People get to come here.
But the idea is that those are always sort of, they're kind of temporary nature, that you don't put them at a location and they just stay there permanently.
Yeah, what we've seen is they'll change behavior temporarily until they get used to it. And it's just like another sign that they just kind of fades in the background. So we haven't used them in a permanent application at this point.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Samuel, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready.
Yeah.
Motion passed. Item 7B, consider approval and adopt and publish 3rd reading of ordinance number 1096, amending the official zoning map for 33.577 acres from AR to CD and R160. The subject property is located southeast of the intersection of Northwest County Drive and Northwest 121st Street. BTK is 23-02.
There have been no updates and no additional public comments received since second reading.
Any questions for Clayton? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address us on this item? None. Do we have a motion to approve Third and final reading and to adopt and publish ordinance number 1096.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second, further discussion? Sam, roll please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yeah.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, consider approval of the following items related to PC case 22-33. The minor subdivision for Silver Birch Park, Plat 3. Subject property is located north of Northwest 62nd Avenue and east of Silver Birch Street. Resolution number 23-99, approving a development agreement with University Enterprises, Inc. regarding public park land dedication. And resolution number 23-100, approving the preliminary plat and final plat for Silver Birch Park Plat 3. Clayton.
Good evening again. University Enterprises Inc. has submitted this minor subdivision to create 2 lots for a twin home development. That would be 1 unit per lot with a common party wall, so a 0-foot setback along that common lot line. But two lots so that each unit can be other individual ownership. Property is shown on our Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan as suburban residential in parks and open space category. That parks and open space generally reflecting the drainage way along the southern portion of the property, which state has shown as unbuildable, and then the suburban residential and north elevation of the building pads. Property is currently zoned R3, medium density, multiple family residential living district. Use of the property for twin home development is permitted, and as proposed, the lots will be compliant with the zoning code. There is a buffer requirement on both on the east, north, and west, and the buffer will be split evenly along the east and the west, and then the full buffer is required along the north. That would go into home construction. Access to the site would be via a private shared drive that would service these 2 units plus 1 additional home that is off, well, not yet constructed, but to be constructed to the east. Utilities for the site will be public utilities, public water, public sanitary sewer. There's no new storm sewer proposed. Property is not located in the floodplain. For parkland dedication, they are proposing an equal value alternative of cash in lieu of land dedication. And they have made the applicable payment to the city, and that's what the 23-99 is acknowledging and accepting the parkland dedication there. With that, happy to go into further detail or answer questions if needed. Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. I will note that it was not unanimous. It was 4 yes, 1 no, 2 absent. The fact was regarding the use of a shared private drive. This predated our discussion during on the zoning code update, and I believe many of those concerns have since been mitigated through those further discussions the zoning code update. There is representative of the applicant. They will answer any questions. I'll wrap up any comments.
Does have any questions for Clayton?
So Clayton, is that another lot to the east of this? Yes, it is. It is a single lot for single family detached residential. Zone R160.
Any other questions, council?
I do have a couple, like, it seems like this area keeps coming back to it. And lot 1 and 2 seem quite odd in that they are quite long and they have the road that splits them in half. But what I'm looking at here, basically lot 1, its frontage is all the way to 52nd, correct?
That is correct.
And that is not, that is showed with the grading plan that water is flowing across that area into the east, to the water lake structure, correct?
Yeah, and there's existing overland flow easements that encompass the majority of that area. And there's a numerous easements along that.
Yeah.
Sanitary sewer.
So this last house that's platted to the east, that is not part of tonight's discussion, will that be it for this cul-de-sac in terms of additional homes? far as you know, or there are more buildable lots there.
As far as I'm aware, this would be the meter.
Thank you.
Clayton, I believe the entire council got communication, a month plus ago, but perhaps it just was directed to me, and I apologize, council, if you didn't get it. But there was some concern from, a homeowners association that I believe manages the water feature or lake pond that's back there about a heavy amount of silt, that's already come into that. Is this going to aggravate that process? In other words, are we going to be causing even more runoff from there, especially with larger impervious surfaces of rooftops and a little more stream?
It should not, none of that, the ponding area does not encroach onto this lot at all. And all water flow would be overlay. Have time to infiltrate and filter through, drains, et cetera. Otherwise, this does not reach the threshold for stormwater management standards, to require individual site detentions. That threshold is 10,000 square feet.
And the 10,000 square feet of building, is that correct?
Impervious area.
Impervious. And how much is lot 1 and lot 2 that would be constructed?
We don't know what the home would be, so that would be something that we'll have to monitor with the building permits, and if when the building permits come in and they exceed that, that will trigger the requirement for stormwater management.
So what if lot 1, lot 2, and then a yet to be determined, single family house on that other plat results in more than 10,000 collectively? They would have needed some sort of, or we would have needed some sort of stormwater mitigation, yet because they do them individually, they don't.
They're separate developments, so we really can't combine them together from a.
I realize that, but that's a loophole then that we need to fix. From the standpoint of if someone were to stagger that type of development, and yet if one developer had actually put in 10,000 square feet worth of development, we would have required that protecting that waterway.
That's something we can certainly look at further. If you work on that.
So, Clayton. I'm trying to get it, so this says it's a minor subdivision or a subdivision of 1.25 acres with 2 lots for single family attached homes. So, single family attached homes, is this a single family home? What, is this a duplex or are we 2 homes? What's this?
The terminology is kind of intermixed, single family attached, duplex, twin home.
Or you use twin home as another word, so what is it?
What they all are, when you look at it, it's 2 units attached together.
Yeah, but I can't look at it, there is nothing to look
I
at.
know, but if you go to duplex home.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
But really what the twin home is each gets down to is the ownership structure. A duplex is gonna be 2 units on 1 legal lot, so you have 1 owner of 2 units. A twin home is 2 units on 2 lots, so each unit is individually owned, or have the ability to be individual.
But the homes are attached to each other.
Correct. They would have a very near identical appearance to a duplex. It's really getting down to the ownership structure.
Okay. But I do think that Councilman Burkhardt does make a reasonable point that, you know, we need to be careful not to allow, this is, I mean, this is a very unique looking kind of subdivision. I mean, it's a huge cul-de-sac off of a street that is very short. I mean, how this came about, and then his homes is kind of built, it's like a round home or something. It's is that, am I in the right part of town that house is?
That's just outside the boundaries.
I mean, it's kind of, it's eclectic might be the right term, especially for that part of Johnston. Not a lot of eclectic parts to it, so. Anyway, this adds a little bit to the eclectic parts of it. Now we got a twin.
Other questions for Clayton? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve resolution 23-99?
So moved.
Second,
Have a motion and a second further discussion?
Mayor, I do actually have a couple more questions. I'm very sorry. Do you know what kind of timeline they're on for this? Has there been any discussion with the other developer with regard to the other property or parcel that's out there? And what would the impact or the effect be if we tabled this decision tonight?
I would defer over to the ownership applicant if he's able to provide additional context on the timing of the project.
I'm Bill Poston.
If you could come up to the microphone.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Can you wait to?
I thought I was heard.
If you could give us your name and your address,
I'm
please.
Bill Poston. I live in 9212. I'm in Detroit.
So the first question I have is what kind of time frame are we on with regard to this development of the twin home? Specifically, what impact would tabling tonight's decision have on your project? And then lastly, are you aware of any of the intentions or plans timeline wise or other of the other developer on that eastern parcel?
For all sensible purposes, the duplex lot has been sold, or is in the process of being sold. And this meeting was instrumental in culminating that process. The other lot, the east lot, has been sold and is owned by a realtor. And their plan is to build a single home. The entire strip, at one time it was an 8-acre piece, and it was all part of Waterford. That was going to be dual common or duplex. And that plan actually matured and they made a lot of changes, but this one particular lot, it never changed in that process. So it's still the duplex lot. And it still has a buildable space, for a unit. And the plan is to move ahead, and I think the owner, the prospective owner has, and so intentions to build the home as soon as possible in reasonable time. And the land has been vacant for, I know, at least 25 years.
Are you aware of any how soon building might take place on that parcel of the east?
The east property,
Yeah.
that's a good question. I don't know. They have staked it. The stakes are there, which is usually, anticipating a construction project. But I haven't had that chance to talk to those folks.
All right, thank you.
Like, I just have a couple more, but as I look kind of at this whole area around this cul-de-sac. So it looks to me. So you've got. So start right on the street there, 62nd. And then there's kind of a funky lot right there. Is that a buildable lot?
That is an platted outlot for stormwater management.
Okay, so no intention to build a lot there.
Correct.
And then you have these other that right there.
That's under common ownership, and those are actually combined into one, but the county shows it as.
Okay, and then you have that right there. Is that a buildable lot?
Yes, that is a buildable lot.
And then you have next to it, that's just a garage on a lot? What is that?
Yeah, that's how you look at this house up here and. That's your lot, right?
Okay, so it's just unique to kind of have a lot with just a garage. So I'm just trying to figure out.
Like over here, it's under common ownership with this
Okay.
lot,
Okay,
because the county is reflecting it, because it was a portion of a former lot.
But Clayton, there is that small, almost pie-shaped slice next to the garage?
That's tied with the bigger lot here.
Okay.
Yeah, I apologize that it's confusing, we don't create the parcel line that the county reflects, so.
So,
I can certainly try to do the map.
I mean, it's kind of odd because this is not a subdivision, we're almost developing subdivision lot by lot, right? So the street that will go kind of in a northeast direction from there will, we don't really know what that's gonna look like once it gets east of that subject property.
It'll just be a private driveway for one home.
And there'll be no cul-de-sac or.
It can't go any further because this cul-de-sac right here, it's about stream.
Okay.
Those are the rear yards of those houses. The pond, we have another water. So. Sort of taking out a bunch of houses,
Right.
which is not realistic.
Right, but it's just, you understand that it's hard to sort of visualize. Kind of on a lot by lot basis, as opposed to most subdivisions, which are like, you can see kind of the whole picture right in front of this.
Clayton, can you or someone who can understand the topographical maps better than myself use a mouse or a pointer or a finger to tell me which way water will flow on that street segment that will be immediately south of lots 1 and 2?
Water will generally drain from north to south. So these contour lines is running down. This hill like so. And then when it gets here, then it goes west to east.
Toward the pond.
Yes,
That's
correct.
already silting in.
Correct.
So it will not actually go overland and be infiltrated into soil. It will follow the concrete and then go into the pond.
The pond doesn't start ponding until over here on the east adjoining lot. This is a grass vegetative swale upstream of the pond.
Okay,
The high water mark is actually just the 100-year water, so if you're in a flood condition, just slightly encroaches into this eastern property, which is east of what we're looking at tonight. But all of this is just vegetative swale with plantings that have grown up over the years.
no vegetation substance as far as diameter tree or something like that that we be concerned with.
There's nothing proposed to be removed, there's no work proposed in that area, it's proposed to be understood. And it's a pretty established area.
So the water runs south, and you say it runs to the west or runs to the east or west?
Once it goes south, then it will turn east into the pond.
But you said there's something about high water east of there.
When the pond is at 100-year flood elevation, it's gonna flow up and kind of just encroach.
Oh, that's how the high level of the pump, not, okay.
Yeah, so when the pond's at flood condition.
Any further questions for Clayton? Sam, you're gonna have to remind me where we're at. We had a motion on the first resolution.
We have on 2399, but we have not taken a vote.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not Samuel, please.
Cope,
No.
Ready,
Yeah.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart.
No,
Motion passed. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-100?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Samuel, please.
Ready,
yes,
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
no,
Cope,
No.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider resolution number 23-94. Amended site plan and amended architectural elevation for Ignite Johnson Sports and Fitness. Aaron.
Here with me for a moment on pull up some exhibits. Site plans and architectural elevations for the Ignite Johnson Sports and Fitness Facility were approved in February of 2022. And in the ensuing months, there have been some minor design changes to the footprint of the building and exterior building material that require city council to take action to approve those revisions. With regard to the site plans, additional points of entry were added to the east side of the field house. And the location of those additional points of entry are shown on the overhead there, marked by an A. This addition is brick clad, and it is to the left of the building's main point of entry. We page down a little here with the staff report. It's that new point of entry is circled here in red. Again, just to the left of the main point of entry to the building. That's a change from the original site plan. Also, there were changes made to the south end of the field house. It's marked by the B on the overhead there. The previous approval depicted a 3,636 square foot storage addition at this location. On the revisions, it largely remains the same, only the dimensions have changed. It's lesser in depth, but greater in length, still the same square footage. The storage addition was also previously depicted as a fabric wall structure with a pitched roof. It is now depicted as a brick clad structure with flat roof, and it's circled here in this rendering on the overhead. With regard to changes in architecture, originally the field house was intended to be a fabric wall structure. While the roof remains fabric, the sidewalls are now insulated metal panels. Previously, the concourse portion of the building was clad with metal panels, and the gymnasium walls were concrete panels. Percentages of those materials have now changed, with concrete panels being used on the concourse portion of the building and metal panels on the gymnasium. So essentially, we flip-flop those materials. Another change is the use of translucent sandwich panels. The PUD as written does allow the use of translucent panels, but the material is not used on the original elevations. It is now shown on the revised elevation drawings on the north, south, and east elevations of the gymnasium. And I did encircle those elevations on your staff report as well, to give you an idea. It's a little small, I'll try to blow it up. Encircled in red on these drawings here is the use of the translucent sandwich panel. The translucent sandwich panels are used in place of glass, and they do allow natural light into the building. Glass is still used on the concourse portion of the building. Revised elevations depicted overall peak roof height of the field house at 83 foot 8 inches versus the original 77 foot 8 inches. That increase is still within the allowances of the PUD, which allowed a peak roof height of no greater than 100 feet. So it did increase in height, but still within the allowances of the PUD. Number of doors and points of entry have changed. For instance, if you compare the west elevation revisions on the original, if you compare the west elevations on the revision to the original, there are fewer overhead doors shown, whereas more overhead doors are now shown in the south elevation. All in all, they're pretty minor changes, but nevertheless enough to require running site plan approval back to the approval process. I did take it to our planning commission last Monday, and they recommended approval to the city council. Here we are tonight. I do have Chad and Brian and Mara here in the audience with us tonight on behalf of the, with you, Chad, questions for them.
Council have questions for Aaron?
I have a question. Does this change in structure that we or does it change any kind of a structure was change in structure, does it affect the locacy of this?
to affect the.
The looks of that as is.
The main change really is that the steel house, which is the westernmost portion of the building, was previously a fabric structure. Now it's a metal wall structure and actually metal insulated metal panels. I know previously there were some concerns on behalf of some of the adjacent neighbors about noise. This should help improve that issue because it's an insulated product and it will help the buffer if it's coming out of the structure. As far as really same general size, same general shape. It's no closer to the property lines than it was before. Just we kind of flip flop some use of materials and again, the same. The primary change was shifting to the insulated metal panel system for the field house over the fabric wall structure. Yeah.
Aaron, I know this is not required in our current building ordinances, but do you know if any of these large atrium clear space windows are bird safe?
I do not know the answer to that. We did not make it a requirement because this was actually reviewed and approved under the old submitted, reviewed and approved under our old code of ordinances. And I don't think we've made that change to the current code yet. Have we, as the direction we've talked about going? That would be a change in the future. Certainly the translucent panels, they're not going to be.
I'm not worried about. the
Yeah, that would
translucent
be,
panels.
that would have the bird safety factor you're looking for, actually. It's the middle portion.
The middle portion, which is meant to be seen through.
Yeah.
That's going to be very attractive to birds because they're gonna be confused and think they can fly through. So I don't know if you've bought your windows yet, but if you were to gonna do any kind of bird safe window treatment, you need to do that when you buy your window, because adding it later, they're expensive and doesn't last.
Other questions or comments for Aaron?
I would just say this is really isn't for Aaron, but I really like the updated look and the translucent panel. I think that's really nice. Will give it a nice feel. Very excited to see this project continue to move forward and progress. I know it's a big challenging project, but it's going to have a big impact on our community, and I really appreciate all of you guys are involved.
Any other questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-94?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Sam, vote please.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready.
Yeah.
Pass.
Thank you.
Item 7E, consider approval of resolution number 23-98. Approving the site plan for Bombers Golf and Family Community Center, 5055 North Road. Easy case 23-08.
One second. Not a good attachments for us. Johnston Golf Development LLC submitted a site plan for development of a golf and family entertainment center at 55 Norway Road. Uses of the venue would include a golf driving range, indoor bowling alley, axe throwing, restaurant, bar uses. I believe there's an arcade. Did I miss any uses? They got a little bit of everything going on in this facility, and it's it'd be pretty neat. Looking back at the history of the property, this is the location of the former hotel and North End Diner just off Merle Hay Road. Property was demolished. The hotel was demolished in 2017. There was two existing structures just west of that along Merle Hay Road, and a former car dealership and a former massage parlor. Those have since been
Do you have to
demolished as
remind
well. In 2022, there was a tree removal plan approved by this council, and tree removal did occur. And that kind of gets us up to today. This is on our Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan as a commercial land use and parks and open space. It's further within our multi-road gateway master plan. And really, this is the site that we earmarked for the possibility of a unique retail destination, a new hotel with conference center and restaurant, or a corporate office headquarters. Well, we don't got the corporate office headquarters here on this site. We did actually put that up the street, fortunately, with Lifester. This does really accomplish a combination of 1 and 2 with that unique retail and future hotel opportunity reserved on this site. So as proposed, this is consistent with both our Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan and our gateway master plan. Property is currently zoned with a combination of C3 regional commercial zoning district and CD conservation district. Generally, the dividing line being generally this western third being the C3, and then the eastern 2/3 being the CD conservation district. All of the proposed improvements, except for the actual driving range itself, is in the C3 zoning district. The driving range would be in the CD, and that's really a result that we don't have a maximum building height in the CD district, and there's a need for additional height on the netting that's around the golf driving range. It is a permitted land use in that zoning district, subject to site plan approval, so it is consistent with zoning. Just wanted to point that out for you. I alluded that there was tree removal that occurred last year. There is a little bit of additional tree removal that is proposed with this site plan. There were a number of trees that we worked to save along the north side of the trail. I'm really trying to preserve those for the ability for this plan to further be fleshed out and determine, do they really need to go before we cut down those mature trees? And as the plan has matured, the stormwater management for the site, how it needs to drain from west to east, is going to really facilitate the need for that tree removal. In addition to that, the Des Moines Water Works is looking at a large transmission trunk main that would generally follow the alignment of the existing trail through this site. And with construction of that, regardless of the Bombers development, there would have to be tree removal likely as a result of that for that public infrastructure. So staff is recommending that that tree removal is consistent with the development and should be a pretty good part of this development. Buffering for the site, there is a landscape buffer requirement between this site and the northern storage mark, and it is back portion of this main storage up here. That area is zone M2 general industrial. Recognizing that this is a changing district in the area, and the long-term plans for the areas to the north do have that transitioning from M2 zoning to something more of a mixed use or commercial usage. The applicant is requesting is an alternative buffer of half that normal width. Normally, the full buffer would be put on them, but recognizing that changing nature, we are recommending that we can have. That is in accordance with our new zoning code and past precedent as well in areas of similar nature. Open space for the site, they are well exceeding the minimum open space requirement and planting requirement. I will point out that, let's hop over to the drawing here. The open space and landscaping is only accounting for the developed portion of the site. There's this kind of this line that I'm going over with my cursor here, this eastern third, that is not accounted for in the open space planting to the landscape planting, because that's intended that it would be dedicated back to the city of Johnston as public parkland and will be subject to a separate planting requirement for the approved development agreement that is in place. They are committed to Adam can give you the dollar amount. There is a dollar amount that they're committed to reforestation and restoration of that area from plantings. So just want to point out that that area is not included in the landscaping. We're talking just this western 2/3 of the site. Street trees will also be included along Earl Page Road. Traffic access to the site is shown as a controlled lighted intersection on the southwest at that current shared entrance with the Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh. There will be some modification of the of the entrance there. One, both to improve the condition of the drive aisle, but two, to add a queuing space for vehicle turning movement. There is a proposed northern access on Merle Hay Road that the staff prefers. The alignment here is that it becomes a shared access with mini storage to the north. However, for lack of, or should the mini storage decide or not desire to enter into a shared access at that location, we are recommending that council vary our separation requirements between entrances to allow for that northern drive and the mini storage drive to be closer located than typically would be allowed. That way, this northern drive could align with Pitch Parkway, which is been constructed on the west side of Merle Hay Road. We want to try to get those turning movements and as little conflict as possible. And they have preserved the ability for this northern drive to, in the future, be extended northward to connect to Northwest Johnston Drive. That would really be a private development driven matter on either Bombers is able to acquire rights to make such a connection or their future redevelopment to the north. But they're at least preserving the ability for a future connection should that be needed or desired in the future. Didn't want to close the door on that prematurely. Site will have access to pedestrian circulation. Trail through the site will be modified. They are showing a temporary alignment of the trail. The final alignment of this trail will be subject to some further ongoing discussions with the Iowa DOT for any work within the DOT right-of-way section to reroute that, as well as finalizing plans for our new kayak launch that we're going to be located here and how that southern parking lot may develop. So what you're seeing here is really intended as an interim condition, but it will make that connection for continued pedestrian and cyclist circulation, in addition to the added circulation east-west through this site over to Merle Hay Road. Parking for the site is intended to be a shared common parking facility, utilizing a shared parking factor, similar to what we've done here at Town Center and are allowing for in our zoning code. In this particular case, recognizing that uses can be off-peak from one another, they would be offsetting with hotel and more of a retail component. So that has been accounted for and is in your staff report. And provided that no individual use exceed what has been allotted for, additional parking would not be required unless in the discretion of the city council, additional parking is deemed necessary. Utilities for the site will be available, public sanitary sewer and water along the southern drive aisle that will extend eastward from Merle Hay Road to a point that will service the new kayak launch. All other utilities throughout the site, including all storm sewer, will be private. Stormwater management will drain generally from west to east into a wet bottom detention basin that will ultimately outlet into Beaver Creek. And this basin will be on public land, and that's not something we have done that in other instances. Developer will still be required to do a stormwater maintenance agreement. Since they have requirements to manage stormwater for their site, they'll still have that responsibility. The city will have the ability to enforce that on them, even though it is on public parkland. So not without precedent that we've done it this way, this at least opens up the ability that this a fishing pond or a park amenity. Actually on public parkland. Floodplain for the site, this area is located within areas of what is commonly referred to the 100-year, 500-year floodplain. The floodway, which is where the bulk of the flood will go, doesn't go through the site. There's no proposed improvements to encroach into the floodway. We're just talking about the 100 and 500-year for their site. Just over a week ago, a week and a couple days, we did learn of an error in the FEMA firm mapping for Beaver Creek, specifically the section from the Des Moines River up to just past Merle Hay Road, kind of past American. Apparently FEMA, when they updated our flood models in 2019, did not utilize the new Des Moines River model for the Beaver Creek section, and what that's resulting in is at the confluence of the Des Moines River and Beaver Creek. The Des Moines River is shown as a base flood elevation of approximately 811. Beaver Creek shown at about 805, so about 6 feet lower. That doesn't work. So unfortunately, it was not caught until this late in the game. So that will result in the need for some additional fill to be brought into the site to bring this up. The DNR has issued a ruling that the base flood elevation adjoining this site is actually approximately 2 feet higher than FEMA published, so they are required to bring it up to that elevation. Any building will have to come up to be at the base flood elevation for the DNR plus 1 foot. That's 812.50 elevation. And so that did give an amended resolution earlier this afternoon, got added to the agenda item, which did add in a condition number 11T, which this reflects that any the site grading plan is going to have to be modified to reflect that higher grading for this site. So that has not been accounted for in the version you see in front of you yet today. Architecture for the building is proposed to be at least 75% permanent material, primarily composed of aluminum composite panel, fiber cement panel, metal ring screen, silver veneer, and with trim material of EFIS with the exterior insulation finish system. No single side will exceed 25% of trim materials, that EFIS material, so it is in compliance with our architectural standards for this site. With that, happy to go into further detail. These are questions. I went kind of quick there, I understand. We do have representatives of the applicant audience as well, so there are questions there.
Council,
The Planning and Zoning Commission has reviewed this and it is recommended.
Council have questions for Clinton?
And I do. Clayton, I unfortunately, I heard you make reference to the parking under the same conditions as the town center. And right now I'm getting a lot of feedback that there's not enough parking, and then kind of chiming in what Councilmember Evans said a couple weeks ago. So I need a little more clarification as to how we computed the number of stalls. I heard you say that we're thinking of off-peak type hours and things like that. But to some extent, how many stalls would we have needed if we weren't accounting for those kind of off-peak considerations or other multi-use? And then, you know, I guess my feedback is, what do we do if they run out of space? Is there anything? This is even a little different for the town center that folks can walk further.
So couple items there. One, I'll start with just clarifying. The 423 spaces they know on their site plan that being provided on the drawing I have above the screen, that's just this dark grayed out area. That's not accounting for any future parking to the south or on outlot 1 and 2. So there would be future parking, because it's not on phase 1 of the site. So that's a big clarifying factor there.
Great, no, I appreciate that.
As for how we calculated it, in our new zoning code, we established a shared parking factor, which is utilizing a system that prepared the Des Moines area metropolitan planning organization. And for this site, it's a shared parking factor of 1.3. What that means is you would add up all the required parkings for the site, divided by 1.3. That's your shared parking factor. That's reflecting hotel retail offset. Recognizing hotel users can be an overnight user or retail for a daytime or off-peak hotel user. For this particular site, phase 1 would require 533 parking spaces without a shared parking factor, 410 utilizing it, and they're providing 423. So they're going just a little above what their minimum would be, but it is still the kind of that shared parking. They did have to make some assumptions on the number of hotel rooms, the future drive-through, how many space occupants would be there. this does not, that shared parking factor does not account for potential development in outlot 1, outlot 2, or outlot 3. And as I indicated, does not include the future parking on the south portion of the site.
I certainly appreciate all of that explanation. In fact, that helps immensely. And I also want to go on record as I'm not in favor of over paving stuff just for that sake, but I definitely wanted to know how it's going. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I have some questions. It's hard to know where to start. First, I want to say that, the landscape plan, provided here by Confluence, I'm assuming that's their name on here, is excellent. But there seems to be a miss. The plans that we saw when we were talking about this development back when we were approving all the tree removals had a connection from basically the middle of the site down south to the Beaver Creek, and it was a green space. It kind of widened. I felt like there was opportunities to do some stormwater management within the site and make it aesthetically part of the landscape of the site. And that's no longer here. It looks like must be a miniature golf course that's on the southeast side of the building, which I think that sounds great. Is there ways that we can be very creative? I'm all over the place, sorry, but be more creative in stormwater management and connections to this, what we consider huge asset to the city of Johnston is Beaver Creek. Don't want us to turn our back on it, and I don't see any way that they come together or they become part. One side leads to the other, Beaver Creek leads back to this development. I mean, this is a big deal for our city. It's our front door. We're all excited about it, but I feel like there's a bit of a miss here.
So I can help answer some of those, and I believe what you were referring to, some of the early concept drawings that showed kind of a great lawn-like feature down here. And that still is the grand vision, but for the purposes of the site plan, that was removed. And the reason for that being, our city limits by the south property boundary. We can't approve improvements outside of our city limits on either DOT public right of way. So that still is part of the vision for this area with our new kayak launch to create that connection in conjunction with partnership with the Iowa DOT. But it was not reflected on the site plan for jurisdiction.
I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
and I would maybe defer over to John Schmitz on kind of how he envisions this new kayak launch being integral in providing that connection down to Beaver Creek. I think that would help to address some of your commentary there.
In a small way, those kind of things can happen. We're talking about a trail to a kayak launch. I'm talking about a relationship and landscape addressing the beautiful area that we're in. It feels enclosed, and maybe that is the landscape that surrounds the north and the east sides. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. There's some other things that I'm concerned about. I'm looking at a plan that shows a lot of landscape, but no landscape around this stormwater detention basin. When does that come in?
That would come with public improvement plans for this site, and as I indicated, because that area is going to be under everything departments. And Adam, I'm gonna look back really quick. Do you recall what the dollar amount was for the report station? $75,000, which will be utilized within the areas on this east, which includes the pond, and getting down into the existing woodlands to do any restoration in there if needed, but that additional planting. So it was intentionally excluded from this plan set for the purposes of that would be a public improvement on public land, and so we wanted that to be reflected on the separate plan set that will come back to the town.
Okay. Again, the first time I've seen this plan. And again, I feel like there's missed opportunities in terms of connection to the beauty of Beaver Creek. Hopefully, when these outlots get designed, that some of that could be in the plan. I did see a note in here about a 12-foot high chain link fence, and I saw in your notes that the fence can't be more than 6 foot tall. Where is this chain fence?
What I can tell, it's around the northern section of the proposed building where there's services entrances are.
Okay. And that they're going to give us a detail of how the fencing for the golf range is going to be. We don't have anything that describes what that is. The netting,
It's full with netting, it's like a mesh netting. I have not received the detail on that.
So anyway, I will say that, you know, I appreciate this plan. I'm really looking forward to it. The elevations are fabulous. I will also say we should be considering bird safe glass, especially if it's large atrium type amounts of glass. And I look forward to, as this goes in, if there's any way to work more connection from the site to the Beaver Creek natural area, to the trail that's going to be very important, that currently goes through there. We're keeping that. You want to draw people in, you want to make this an active site, you want to have the kayak launch. It feels a little cut up to me and not put together. That's my comment.
I have a question to you. Can you go back to that? So the road access at one point, we have been highly incorporated the traffic light. And that's the road north south. The one there on the top on the north side, the other one, that's only accessible north.
That is a full access on Monroe Hill Road. That's intended to be aligned with Pitch Parkway. And it will be an uncontrolled intersection for north-southbound traffic, east-westbound, so people leaving Pitch Parkway or people leaving this site would have to stop, but they would be able to go from Bombers here, they'd be able to go northbound or southbound on the Monroe Hill Road for that reason.
Even though both sides was uncontrolled. And then the concern about the traffic up there. That's every traffic area. And uncontrolled at that point. Will there be a accident prone zone at that point?
I imagine that if people are looking to go southbound out of this site, they're gonna come down to the intersection where it's gonna be a safer, easier turning movement for them. I don't know if Matt, you had looked at that at all when we did the roadway improvement plan.
We've looked at spacing on street or traffic signals. Generally, we wouldn't necessarily put one here. Just because it's in proximity to not only the interstate, but we've got another set at Lithia. And then put one just up here and then Johnston Drive. It would just jam the traffic up, slow it down.
And so the traffic light could be an issue that goes and it could be that, but if you're going to have an uncontrolled. Intersection at that point. Well, people try to turn south. Go to hit both sides of the traffic, and it's going to be a traffic accident prone zone. The way I can put a stop sign or something to make it a little bit better traffic control.
There will be a stop sign.
There will be a stop.
Not a stop lane, but didn't you say there will be a stop sign?
For the eastbound traffic, so if you're leaving Bombers, you'll be required to stop, or if you're leaving Pitch Parkway, you're required to stop. But if you're on Royal Hill Road going northbound or southbound, no stop condition.
Right, so it's a two-way stop, so
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think you have to have two exits, right? You can't just have one. And if you're planning to go southbound, just your natural inclination will be not to use that north exit. Because it'll be a very hard left turn, challenging left turn. So you will if you're going northbound, you can go either exit work pretty well. But the southbound exit would be, if you're going southbound, you'll use the south exit.
Yeah.
I mean, the hard part is I don't think you have those controlled stop based on.
I'm just trying one. Yeah, people will still do that. They will still take that turn back. Some people will still do that. On that one, they take turn now. But that's something that's going to be accident road zone at that point. Yeah. I don't know the solution. I'm asking you if there's a way that you can actually do some kind of traffic study at that location to see if there's something can be done. For traffic.
I think we would want to wait and see if we have accidents, and if we do start having crashes on Raleigh in that area, then we can look at a solution at that point in time, or some sort of traffic study at that time, but I think we would want to verify and make sure that we're having those accidents before we would.
What we have to do about.
We did do a traffic study at the front end of this project as well, because it was required by code. And what our traffic engineer proposed indicated was, for traffic safety, they needed to build an additional queuing storage at the southern access to support that southbound traffic. And to support, safer traffic movement, this access needs to be aligned with Pitch Parkway. So that, if someone wants to make a turn movement, you're reducing conflict points. But that traffic study did not indicate any warrants for any controlled intersections at that point, beyond just making sure it's properly aligned.
Okay, well, I understand the argument, but that's a little one. For now, we'll leave it at this point. Thank you.
Any other questions for Clay?
But Clayton, I just want to make sure I understand kind of, so we're approving a site plan for this site, but we'll still, what other future reviews will we have of kind of this overall site? Like, for instance, when the outlot.
So you would see, there's gonna be several additional items, you'll end up coming for you, construction plan for public improvements.
And that's where we would see maybe.
Landscaping, water mains, sanitary sewer, things that will be dedicated back to the cities. You'll see a plating action where we actually split this off into separate lots for building pads. You will see future site plans for hotel, future drive-through, these future outlots, for however many buildings those will be, maybe. You'll see whether it be 1, 2, 3 site plans, you'll see site plans for those, so. Certainly, this project's going to be coming back before the council in various formats over time. But this is kind of the biggest picture we're probably going to look at. We're looking at a lot of those common amenities for this site.
But it doesn't, but what we're looking at tonight does not include those 2 parking lots kind of on the inside of Outlet 3, is that correct?
That's correct. They're just earmarked in this future parking. Subject to separate.
And then, like, for instance, the one that has, it looks like a trail that kind of diagonally cuts through it. Obviously, at some point, we'll have the routing and the trail figured out. So that can be.
Yeah, and the thinking is that we get it finalized with the design of the new kayak launch.
Sure. Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Clayton?
You had mentioned I have to do this. When I see in the drawing, it says future drive-through. I just want to make sure that this is zone C3, so car washes are not approved.
This is on C3, car washes are allowed use in C3.
We are approved or not.
They are, yes.
C3.
C3 allows for those same uses as C2. And in fact, C3 actually allows for a greater ability of car washes than C2. Because C2 is restricted down to single bay or single automated tunnel. C3 is going to allow for multi-bay as well. Now, one thing that, on this site to be aware of though, is we do have the existing development agreement, which is outside of zoning, but is a tool we have available for us to help control how this area develops. But yes, car washes doesn't allow. Subject to site plan approval.
Is that different than the area to the land north of this? That we were trying to change C2 from C3 because car wash wasn't allowed under C3.
That one is on the PV plan unit development with references to C1, C2, C3 with restricted uses including car wash.
Okay.
That's the difference.
And that was a Tuesday. It's your Tuesday, but
So there could be a car wash in right there.
It would
I
be
think,
in
I
line.
think the applicant is indicating that it's not going to happen.
I will say it's a allowed use, but it has not been indicated as the desired.
and actually, I think that is, you know, I think one of the advantages of having a developer who's local is very helpful, right? So that they're, I think they're on plan about thought process is very helpful.
Any other questions for Clayton? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 23-98?
So, second,
A motion and second, further discussion? Campbell, please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
yes.
Ready,
Yeah.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay.
Item 7F, consider approval of claims in the amount of $774,402.86.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second discussion. Sam, vote please.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Motion passed. The administrator staff comments. Mike, do you have anything to go?
Just a quick recognition of Cindy and Samantha for their diligent work as city clerk and deputy city clerk for International City Clerk Week.
Congratulations, Sam.
For that, it's been easy, but
It's all week, so they. Otherwise, I'm gonna turn over to Matt, for the segment. All right, I promise to have you on here by now. I just want to give a real quick update, actually, before we get into this, I'd like to give one more update, and it was, we did have. Now for our traffic study, where we reported back our survey results, this past week, and we got, some additional comments at that meeting. We really just shared what our results were. From the survey, and we will bring those back to the next time we do the work session and give that presentation before council. All right, so
I just want to say that I thought Matt and both did a great job presenting the information, and we did have a discussion that night.
Is the meeting, was the meeting, is it available, was it recorded?
It was not recorded because we were just sharing.
Okay, that's fine. If it was, no result, we are gonna put the
Presentation online. So we collected, this is our GIS, and as you can see here on the dashboard, we have gone out and collected our survey in the Greenhouse neighborhood. We have found over 1,100 deficiencies on those sidewalks, indicated by all the little dots here. Over here on our pie chart, you can see that 623 of those deficiencies are vertical obstructions or separations. 419 of them are gaps. We do have 37 raised panels, 5 stalled, and 4 depressed, 26 cracked panels as well. So, this,
I don't know what the term spall. Can you define that for me?
yeah, so fall concrete is when you start to see it deteriorate on the surface.
Okay.
And you've got depression there, it's just starting to deteriorate.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So with that, I kind of want to take a look at our vertical obstructions here and zoom in and take a look at a couple of pictures here. So I think this is what we were really intending to correct out here along the neighborhood along our sidewalks, so. Like I said, we've got 623 of these, now some of these don't look as bad. Cindy?
I'm sorry, it's city clerk week.
Well, she did that back. I just want to kind of briefly cover, but we developed our criteria and we use, ADA criteria, so vertical trip hazard. Defined by ADA or a quarter of an inch or less, or quarter of an inch or more. Up to a half an inch can be leveled or ground down. Okay, and the so Johnston criteria use a half inch vertical separation or greater. Other metro communities, such as Urbandale uses 1 inch. 5 inches an inch or more, and 2 is a half an inch. Des Moines is 3/4 of an inch, and West Des Moines is 1 inch or more. I checked with Waukee, they have 1 inch as well, but they haven't done a sidewalk program since 2017. So here you can see some of the pictures are a little bit of an illusion. This is where they've taken and they've had a cracked panel and they repaired it, but it is settled, so you've got over a half an inch a lip there to trip on. If I can do this.
There you go.
And just here's a couple, so. These will be what we're gonna be sending letters out to replace, will be the type of trip hazard, and the larger ones as well. You can see from the pictures before, you can tell that there were, obviously, trees that were planted next to it. These are the ones that are kind of hard to see just because of the way the photo was taken, that you got a half inch of river width on these birds as well, so. Those letters, we'll talk about kind of the next steps as we go on, but, here's one with the tree that's right up against the sidewalk, and you can see that it's pushed these up, so. When we get ready to send letters out, I'm sure that we're gonna have, some folks will call us, we'll go out, we'll visit with them. Kind of go over the program as well with them. One of the things that I want to cover tonight, we had some conversation at the ad hoc committee level. And what we were looking at is the city's contractor, when we go out and repair these, will be removed and replaced. That's kind of what the program has been built on. We were asked to check to look into grinding. I think that if we want to let the homeowners grind, if it's a half inch or less, the homeowner would like to grind. I'm okay with that. I was asked to reach out to a couple of contractors and I did that. They do grind sidewalks. It's a temporary fix, is what they said. They perform those for generally repeat customers on an emergency basis. And I asked them what it would cost if they went to bid this type of work. They said they don't actually go out and bid this type of work to grind sidewalks. They would need in excess of 700 feet to grind or to do that before they would start even bidding on them. They do charge a trip charge of about $650, $700 to come out and grind the sidewalk, which would be cheaper to replace. If we're less than $500 a panel, it would be cheaper for them to replace the panel than it would be for this contractor to come out and grind it.
So the issue is, if we are requiring them to take out half inch or higher elevation change. That's a huge number of the, incidents. You know, I was kind of hoping that we might, but it gets complicated if we add that grinding as an option. So now we're gonna have to replace it. But even replacing the panel is not permanent, because the panel can heat up again, right?
It can, but we would pin it with the panel next to it.
And I've not had a lot of success with pinning, especially if you're not got a very thick slab. It breaks the slab that stays in place, and the other one that wants to move, if it's only 4 inches thick, it could bust it.
Yeah, you would want a 4 inches or more on your sidewall panel to pin that.
Yeah, I've seen it bust even when it's 5 inches thick. So I don't even know if pinning is worth the extra money, frankly, because things move. I don't know, Jim, you have any,
No, I agree.
I mean, it's extra money and you're pinning to a 4 inch slab, you could be hurting.
Yeah, it's recommended, it's not required.
Yeah, how much do you, I mean, you know, the thing about it is, so these sidewalks and green meadows are originally, right? And so they're 20 years old, right? So I think kind of one of the benefits of the sidewalk programs, you get on an 8-year kind of cycle, kind of more regular maintenance of them, so you might go 20 years between really doing this. So hopefully 8 years from now, this neighborhood comes back. You know, the problems aren't as severe as.
I totally get it, but when you hear that Joaquin and these other cities are addressing only when it's an inch elevation change. I don't understand that because ADA requires half inch or, well, you said quarter. In Iowa, it's ridiculous to try and solve a 1/4 inch change in elevation. It's like written by people in Southern California, not Southern.
Because they don't have as much to the
They don't.
Right, I mean, Mother Nature's not putting nearly as much stress on California.
But because you could, if we
Sure,
don't.
right.
So it's a bad situation, but like you say, you know, if we go through and do this, we'll learn a lot, but Matt's gonna be spending a lot of his time on this program.
There will be a fair share amount of time spent on this with our inspectors and probably myself out there visiting with our residents. So, that really kind of brings us to.
Did you, I mean, is 1,100? Maybe more than you expected, or?
No, I mean, really with what we have going on there, I was a little surprised to see it's over 1,000. I knew that there was gonna be quite a bit. I do want to talk about, so it's, we'll kind of circle back to the repair methods at the end of this, so. Because it kind of ties into the next one too, we've got gaps out there. And these gaps that we're talking about, the criteria that we set with those two, ADA's criteria on horizontal gaps is a 1/2 inch, you can put a 1/2 inch spear into the gap. It's considered efficient. So we stuck with that same 1/2 inch gap. Now, other metro communities, Riverdale uses a 2 inch gap, Altoona is an inch or more, Des Moines is 3/4. We're a 1/2 inch, so we're kind of on the low end, just right where ADA is. Now, if we look at some of these pictures, I think we've got maybe some unintended consequences by choosing a 1/2 inch. When we look at that, some of this is expansion joints they used to put at property lines. And with these being 20 to 40-year-old homes, that expansion joint has deteriorated on the top. We now have a 1/2 inch gap. But level sidewalk, I'm not sure this is what we were intending to mark and tear out and replace. So kind of going back to the current method, I do know that there are sealers that you can put in this, like self-leveling sealant that will fill this in. It's meant for gaps in sidewalks, joints, those types of things. So I think that would be another allowable measure to use to let a homeowner fix that. I'm not sure that we want to have our contractor out there doing that type of repair work.
How would that information be communicated to the homeowner then?
Well, so I think what we need to do is develop some cut sheets or some instructions And what we would say is, if you're, over that half an inch, and you get a letter. I guess the first question is, do we want to stay with a half an inch or do we want to increase that? If you increase to an inch, you're likely going to get rid of all of your gaps. And I think all of our, talking to the inspectors and folks around there, everything is generally under that inch gap that we have. What we could do is we could send the homeowners, because we've already got the information collected. We could send them a sheet that basically said, you could use a self-leveling polyurethane sealant, kind of give them the instructions on how to use it. We've already talked to a couple of people, and they're like, oh, I can do this as a homeowner. Yeah, no problem, we can do that.
This was identified in our inspection of your neighborhood, and this is the way you can solve it.
Right.
On your own, easily and inexpensively.
Right, and I think if we wanted to, or council was agreeable, we could also do that with the half-inch vertical separation. If the homeowner so chose that they want to grind it, they could go out and do that themselves. And if they wanted to, some of the contractors I talked to, they usually use a hand grinder, and they'll go out there and they'll level that sidewalk at it. I would want to make sure that we don't have a trip hazard, so we want to go inspect that and take the measurements on it. But that, I think, is a couple of ways we can let the homeowner solve some of their own issues, maybe a little less expensive. So I think we can communicate that, develop a plan or some cut sheets, some information that we could get out to our residents and go out with mailing, we can post it on our website, those types of things, we can notify them. So
If I were an enterprising teenager in that neighborhood, I'd
I've done some of this in my own home, ceiling joints in the driveway. They said it's about $8 for a tube of the polyurethane steel and kind of caulking gun. And like I said, it was kind of off the side right now. Mine too, for 3+ years.
Matt, how would we handle if it was between property lines? I mean, who ultimately is responsible for that if it is a gap?
We'll find the property that generally what they don't ever really kind of claim right on the right. Somebody usually or just a little bit past it. So we'll deal with that. I mean, we can go out there and look at details.
Okay.
Sure, we have to listen to, we'll have to measure from the other end and one side or the other.
Are we letting anybody use the phone lift?
Yeah, mudjacking is an acceptable practice. If they want to mudjack, let's say that they've got some panels that are settled or depressed, they can go in there and they can use the either mudjacking or the polymer of the foam to bring that up. So that's an acceptable method. If I can go back to. So another thing that we developed here is kind of the fact sheet or frequently asked question sheet. Kind of talks about sidewalks inspected, permits required, really kind of gives some information to the residents. Based on our conversation tonight, I would need to go in and make some modifications to acceptable methods for repair. You can see here that we do allow. We recommend down, you don't have to, we can modify that as well. We can mud jack. There are type A and type C deficiencies. This talks about we could use a ring sealant to make that modification. This would be something that we could get modified real quick, and that would also go out and be posted on our website. You don't know, we wouldn't necessarily mail this one out with the letter because it's not 3 pages long. So by the time we get a few other things in there, we'll have a packet form, but I think we can provide it on our website or having printed copies of public delivery, not very city.
Matt, is the construction permit only required if it's a complete removal and replace?
So the construction permit is required on all of them. Well, okay, any work in the right of way requires them. If you're just doing ceiling, no. Mud jacking, yes, you would want to because if they drill through a panel and clip a fiber line or a telephone line, we would want that. What we're doing is we're not charging for the permit. We could find out who's out there doing the work, but for sealing, we wouldn't necessarily do that. Grinding we would need to do it because they're not actually doing it. So the only time we actually do charge some permit fee is if it's past time and they didn't indicate they were going to fix it themselves or if they were going to have a city or
Matt, while I'm thinking about it, and this is way off base from where you're moving, so I apologize, but this is the way my brain works. Has the city identified, as we get this surplus concrete that's broken up and removed, is there a purpose for it that we can find within the city, or are we just expecting that when we bid this out, the contractor will take our removal and space?
we haven't put it in the plans. We can talk to a couple of contractors. I mean, if we want to salvage the concrete because of the lack of rebar in it, you could use it for bank stabilization. If it's broken up at a certain size. But we haven't identified an area for that just yet. So kind of the next steps of our program, so that's fine. So are we comfortable with modifying from half inch gap to an inch gap?
Any concerns?
So we'll make a couple of those modifications. Like I said, that'll probably get rid of about 419 of those gaps that we've got identified on that. But we'll still send out the information. We can notify those homeowners what they can do to fix that. So that sounds good. We'll modify the fact sheet as well.
Matt, I still have some suggestions going on. I actually marked up the sheet today and then left it on my table at home. But I'll get it.
That's fine. I've got to make a few other changes. So when you get that sent, we'll incorporate those as well. So we're kind of bumping up against the ceiling here with time to get notifications out. But that's kind of our next step is that we'll make a few changes. We'll get the notification letters sent out to the homeowners. And then we'll go through that process, see how many responses we receive, and then get a project put together and bid out this fall, late summer. It says in there that we'll give them 90 days to make the repairs, so we want to allow for them. So this one kind of, we got started a little bit late with our inspection due to the winter. So this one, if we can get into the fall, get some of these replaced, we just maybe ready for spring of 2024. But on the next phase, on phase 2, we're likely to be bringing a contractor with an engineer forward at the May 15th meeting and the first meeting in June, and get that process started to get inspections performed this fall and kind of get in front of that one. So that it's been a learning process for us and staff. I'm going to give Tyler Danielson, our new GIS person down in Public Works. He created this happen back forward, and he's just been great to work with this information. So it's pretty much so
It's a great dashboard. It's I've got really good information, easy to understand.
yeah, he's a wizard at this, so it's just easy for us and easy for me to bring to council or an ad hoc committee to really kind of just paint that picture we got out there. I was a little hesitant to put the picture with the efficiency. He said, oh no, it's an easy, just take a photo and send it right off to the point that you're working on. And so I said, okay, let's try it. It eats up a bunch of time, but even that, you know, you can go back and review and just do a windshield survey for your review. So no, that's been great. So okay, well, that's
Do you hope to start sending some notification letters?
well, I would hope to send them out here either in May, that way for June, July, August. To make that 90 days.
Something to think about, and we can have more conversation, but we need to make sure that we're explaining to the residents what opportunity they have in this program. I didn't see it in the fact sheet, but maybe you intend to do it in the notification letter, but just be thinking about how we can communicate that. Obviously, the more residents that participate in the program, the lower price for everyone. So we want to make sure that they understand this as an opportunity. Not as kind of a hammer over their head and fix your sidewalk.
Yeah, I know that, we put some together, some education material, and we'll get with Janet, she's aware of it, and she's actually been working on some of that, we'll get out with the residents, and we can kind of get that out to them as well.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think the mayor makes a really good point. I think one of the things with public meetings. It was, the people didn't really grasp. That the purpose of this is try to get one, improve the safety of their sidewalk. In the most cost efficient, and easiest way for them possible. That they aren't having to go find a contractor, or get a contractor. I think that, once they kind of got that concept. Then it was a little bit easier. They were not quite so fast. But this is one of those things where you can't communicate it now. And do enough.
So we don't want to rely on them going to the website and figuring out.
Absolutely. I think
That
maybe
needs to
even,
go.
I mean, maybe even another meeting in the neighborhood or something we could say. Because we've marked this, and this is, I mean, I think visually it is helpful. So.
Yeah, we could definitely put together another public information meeting, once we get the letter sent out, and then we could probably schedule a public information meeting, we'll probably have a packed house, for that one.
Let's make sure that I'm clear. I think this needs to be written up and sent to them at the time that they receive the notice.
Okay.
And we may need Janet to help us make sure that we're framing it in such a way that this is truly an opportunity. We have a responsibility to fix some sidewalks, but we've got a great deal here for them to, work with us, get a lower price, get a contractor in there, they don't have to make arrangements to have it done. We just need to participate in the program and take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'll work with that, and I can email that out, or let the council look at it one of those times. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other city administrator or staff comments? Seeing none, we will go to city council comments. Councilman Martin.
I don't have any.
Councilman Burkhardt.
Two things real quickly. One, I do want to speak just briefly as to why I voted no on the parcels, the twin homes up north. I just had some difficulty understanding why that entire cul-de-sac needs to be a cornucopia of every type of housing residential area possible. Maybe we want to make it our home show site, so to speak, of what you could do if you want to build in Johnston. It just didn't seem right for me. I also am very concerned at some point we do need to start talking about what the legitimacy is of that pond and what role the city may have in that, if anything. And I don't need to be a part of anything that's going to continue to contribute to more of that concern at this point. So I'll pause on that one. It's not related to that. Yes.
No, go ahead, I just have some input on the waterfront pond. We've actually been, the city's been dealing with the waterfront pond and talking to those folks in the whole.
Let's talk about that, and then I'll get to my next point.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. No, you're fine.
So we've had discussion with the Waterford Homeowners Association. We've actually met with them on site. I recently met with them a week or two ago. They're moving forward with, they have a plan to clear out about the first 200 to 300 feet of the pond and clear some of that siltation out. They've been working with the adjacent landowner to be able to use his land to be able to haul that material out, dry it out, and then be able to haul it out. They did ask the city to participate in a portion of that. We discussed it at the Public Works ad hoc committee and bring it to full council. We did some extensive research. We haven't. They had talked about when we widened 62nd and we had siltation to that pond. We went back and we looked at it, and we've got pictures from 2005, 2006, and it's always been low. What they suspect happened was when they reconstructed the dam on the east of the road, its elevation didn't get put back the same. So it looks like now there's more siltation at the west end of the pond. So what we've looked at doing is maybe participating in some protection of our infrastructure at the end of the pipe that comes in there. With a couple loads of riprap, so that'll be coming back to the council. But they look like they're moving forward and they're looking at the adjacent property. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The second issue, real quickly, just kind of builds off of two of the projects today that we had some changes to, both Ignite and Bombers. The bugs could not be more palpable and higher with regard to citizens right now. I think with regard to their interest, continue to see progress on those projects. And folks are already beginning to envision what it's going to be like. With that being said, I know I've also had folks express to me that we need to make sure that we are appropriately addressing what we want as formal and even informal crossings of Merle Hay because they anticipate some of that traffic happening to happen as safely as possible. And so folks are offering up all sorts of fun and creative measures to spend city money on that. And ultimately, public safety is my first and primary concern. But I want to make sure that we're doing so appropriately, obviously. When I served on the Public Works Ad Hoc Committee, we began some of those conversations about how we do that. I know there was talk of parking of the things like that. So we just need to make sure that we can put that on our.
Councilman Cole.
I was similar to Councilman Burkhardt. I felt bad when I voted no. I didn't do as good a job as I would have liked to say why I voted no. But I was not comfortable putting a duplex right in Madison, you know, those to me it was expendable. So that was my rationale. I do one thing that I think, you know, as we look at all the projects that are happening in our community, I was at a meeting last week. And one of the project owners was there, and they're local folks. And I think we're just so lucky that so many of our projects in our community are folks who are Johnston residents or from the Des Moines Metro. They really have an understanding of what the strength of our community is. And that's a little bit of luck, right? But it's really cool because these folks, as they were talking about, they really understood our community and what people wanted to see. And so I'm really excited that not only great things happening in our community, but so many of the things are being generated by folks who are either Johnston residents or have strong ties to the Des Moines Metro. I think that's really something that's really observation. And then the last observation, I opened up my Sunday morning register and I saw 4 Johnston Dragons waving white flags, which made me a little nervous, but they were Drake Relay champion flags. And there was, some of them were freshmen and sophomores and all throughout. So that was really cool to see all the success that our Johnston Dragons had at the Drake Relays. I certainly was never, ever close to qualifying for any of that at the Drake Relays. But to me, it's one of the coolest things is when you win at a Drake Relays race and they give you a white flag that says Drake Relays. It's really cool. It was awesome to see that. So our Johnston Dragons were so prominently in the chance.
Councilman Ray.
I don't know anything today.
Councilman Evans.
Just see everybody Saturday, next meeting. Me and Brian are gonna have our second annual parachute runoff.
Before that, you'd be picking up your trees, maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to encourage everyone to join me as well. It's our 10th anniversary year, so it's going to be bigger and better than ever. Staff have worked very hard to make it really special, as well as we have, you know, a large number of volunteers to help as well. It'll be a fun day, and so far I think the forecast is with us. Nearly 70-degree weather, sunshine, maybe a little less wind than we're getting right now. But it'll be a great day for us. So hope to see y'all there. Anything else for the good of the order? No, we are adjourned.
It wasn't even all you.
Yes.